Hello again. I'm sorry. The last video kind of ended abruptly. It's because I was talking about my husband's, um, you know, unaliving himself. Got to be careful of YouTube rules here. But I had to take a moment. Usually I'm much better at ending a video, but that was just, I just ended that abruptly. I had to go compose myself. But yeah, this is a continuation of the last video, uh, part two. But as I was saying previously, my husband, I got a call from the Polk County Sheriff. He came and talked to me, told me my husband had shot himself, because I was, you know, I was still his contactee in case anything went bad, even though he was with somebody else. But as I was saying, I lost my mind. I had just offered him a job. He worked one day, and then the next day he shot himself. I thought, and what was funny is the day that he shot himself, he called me and he apologized. We talked at my job, and I don't know, I wasn't supposed to be doing this, but he was talking to me and telling me how sorry he was, that he loved me and he loved our daughter, and he was sorry that the way things went down, and that he wished he could do things differently. He talked about how much he loved his family, his brothers, and this time he was totally estranged from them, and how much he loved them, and that he wished that they could be brothers again, and things could be better. And I thought, no, 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 don't do this. Don't do this to me. Do not do this to me. Because there's something deep inside me. I was remembering that dream I had of him shooting himself and asking me for help. And then he was telling me how much, how much the alcoholism had, started to atrophy his muscles. He started having issues with his legs because he was drinking so much. And how his feet hurt so much from being on his feet all night. And I said, well, let me come over. And I was just desperate. I even called the daycare where my daughter was at the time. I said, please keep her just a little bit longer. I even left work a little early. I said, I got to go. It's something important. And I went down to Target that was down the street from my job. And I bought him some insoles for his shoes to help, standing. And I went to his house. And I know he was in there. The car was there. And I pounded on the door. And I pounded on the door. And I'm like, let me in, please, let me in. He wouldn't come to the door. I left the insoles on the inside of the door. And I just remember saying, please call me. Please talk to me. You have to talk to me. You have to talk to me. And I left because I had to go get my daughter. He didn't call. Instead, I got the call from the sheriff that night. And that night, and he was telling me, how, the other people were kind of making fun of him on the job because he hadn't been doing that kind of work for a while. So he was a little clumsy at it. I was angry that they criticized him. I wasn't thinking straight, and I went to the spot where he was supposed to be at the job he was supposed to be on that he never showed up to, and I was banging on the doors like, you're lying to me. My husband is not dead. He is not dead. And I was banging on the doors trying to get someone to come there so I could see my husband. I really lost it, but nobody came, and I had to go back home. And in the morning, and I hadn't slept that whole night. I didn't sleep the whole night. In the morning, when When my daughter woke up, my 8-year-old daughter woke up, I had to look her in the face and tell her that her dad was dead. I had to tell him that he killed himself. Okay. I mean, he had said not to tell her what happened. But I'm not going to lie to my kid because he wants to go out a hero. That's not a hero's ending. I was so mad. I was so angry. Having to wake my daughter up and tell her that she didn't have a father anymore. That he'd given up. That he just threw in the towel. You know, and this was right before his birthday. We were going to go surprise him. You know, we were going to pick up a cake. We had bought him gifts. We bought him this beautiful glass chessboard, right? It was gorgeous. Because I had taught my daughter how to play chess, you know. She wasn't very good at it, because she was 8 years old, but she wanted to play chess with her dad because her dad could play chess. And he was impressed, but he didn't have a chessboard. So we went out and we bought him a chessboard so that they could play chess together. You know, she was excited. And, you know, he loved eagles. And we'd even bought him this really cool coat hanger that he put on the wall. It was the head of an eagle, and it had the little things on the bottom of it. So, it was cool. And we'd also gotten him, confirmation burp. We had also bought him this really cool eagle. It was about 1.5 feet tall, made of wood, and hand carved. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous, and we were so excited. And we thought, this will cheer him up. This will this will help make things better. And and this was we had bought this before the conversation that we had the day before he shot himself. We were so excited. Excited. And then I had to wake her up and tell her that there was not going to be a party. There was not going to be any giving him gifts. There wasn't going to be any playing chess anymore. There wasn't going to be any more camping. There wasn't going to be any more daddy-daughter days. And I remember her face. That single tear that just rolled down slowly from her eyes. And that was one of the toughest moments of my life. That tower moment. And I had been warned. I had that vision. I had that dream that this was happening. It's part of the reason why I tried so hard to get him a job, and why I took him food, and plus I still cared. I didn't want that to happen to him. This was my daughter's father, the man I shared life with, man I was still married to. And he still held out hope for us. And I felt really guilty too. Not only was I angry, I felt guilty because I had drafted up divorce proceedings. I'd went out and did all the work myself because apparently, you could do it back then. I'm no lawyer, but I just found, I copied another divorce decree, and I had drafted it up, went and had it notarized, and was trying to get him to sign it. And a part of me still feels guilty for that, because it's like one more thing, one more push, one more thing that was just added on to his pile of hurt. Was the finalization of our marriage, the final dissolution of it. So there was that guilt. I mean, I know now that wasn't what happened. But I don't hold guilt anymore about that. There's always going to be that sorrow because I still miss him. We were still friends. We still cared about each other. We still had a daughter together. But that was another thing that I had to work on healing, that I had to let go. And that took me years, years and years and years and years, with no help, with no therapy, with nothing. Just me wallowing in my misery. You know? Failed relationship with some psycho that kept stalking me. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. But that tower moment right there, that was defining. That was really defining. I thought I was alone before raising my daughter, but then that was it. I was truly, truly alone. There was no lifeline. There was no one to talk to about the frustrations of raising her alone. There was nothing. There was just nothing. It was like someone had pushed me off a cliff and I was in free fall. But the only problem was there was no bottom. I just kept falling. That was, God, it was just like, yeah. First we separated, drugs, the problems with his family, our fighting, him with other women. And then I had a relationship after we split that was a disaster, who was a total psychopath, who stalked me and physically abused me. Again, another relationship in which I was being physically abused. This time even worse. It took a lot for me to walk away from that one. And I'll go into that. But yeah, there was that tower moment when my husband died. And I will kind of go into the relationship here then. Because while he was off dilly-dallying, I was still trying to find myself. I was so lost. I was so lonely. And, I was really trying to work on fitness, on just getting healthy again, finding a better job that paid more, a place to live, all of that. A better place to live, a better relationship, and that just did not happen. Again, I got into a relationship with a Muslim man, which would forever scar me on that religion. In fact, that is not a religion. That is an ideology. That is a political ideology. That was the worst relationship ever, ever, ever. Man was abusive, hateful, a drunk. He was a terrible Muslim. Don't let them say that Muslims don't drink. They do drink, okay? And he just, God, he tore our lives apart, Marissa and I. And it took a lot to get away from him. The physical damage he did is still, I'm still dealing with that. He hurt my back, my neck, and my shoulders, because one time he tried to break my arms. Yeah. Well, you're like, what? Like I said, out of the pan and into the fire. Well, my husband and I split up, and he got with somebody. I found somebody too, and he was not a very nice guy. And I should have seen the warning signs. I should have. I was so desperate. I was so lonely, and I just wanted someone to share my life with. That's all. That's all we all really want, is we want to connect. We're always looking for that connection. We're always trying to find that one soul that gets us, that one person that, laughs at the same stuff that we do, is happy with us and loves us just for who we are. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. He was physically abusive. He was very physically abusive. Always paranoid. Always freaking out. He sexually abused me too. I'm not going to go into the where and the why. But, wow. Yeah, wow. And what took me breaking away from him was seeing the damage he was doing to my daughter's life. She'd already lost a father. Well, she hadn't lost a father at that time, but, she'd already, we were already separated. He didn't get to see her very often. He didn't come over a lot to see her. And she was just desperate for a father figure. And she really attached herself to this guy. I thought he was okay. I thought, okay. I come to find out, no. He was just doing more damage. She seen the turmoil. She saw him hitting me and being abusive. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I looked at her, and what happened is that he went for her. He was going to put his hands on her. And I snapped. I absolutely snapped. It got to the point, it's just like, no, you don't get to touch my daughter. You do not get to touch my daughter. And that's what did it. He went for my daughter. There was that line. At one point in time, I ended up, he had me on the floor trying to beat me, and I wasn't having any of it. He ended up with bruised ribs, black eyes, it was ugly. But I messed him up because I just had enough. And at the time I was really, when we met, I was really into fitness. And I was doing that, what do you call it? It used to be where you'd get in shape by kickboxing. I had a little trampoline that I would do that, before I mentioned that my brother at a very young age taught me how to box. So at the time I was just extending that. I was, trying to learn to kickbox. So that was, I was in really good shape. So I was happy then when I was in shape. But anyway, that was horribly abusive. That was just terrible. Getting out of that relationship, I barely got out alive. I remember he chased me with a gun one night. He tried to stab me. He tried to strangle me. Seriously, he tried to break my arms by putting them behind my back. And his intention was to take them and shove them over my head to break the rotor, to break my arms, pull them out of their sockets. So that was just absolutely awful. We finally got away from him. Got into an apartment. Then I ended up getting custody of his daughter because they terminated his custodial rights because he was abusive to her too. So she stayed with us for, I think, a couple of years until she turned 18. The reason why we didn't keep having her is because she was a handful. She had grown up in such a dysfunctional family and went through just absolute horrors. They were in the Serbo-Croatian Bosnian War in Herzegovina. She went through that. She was in a concentration camp. So, she even had a bullet scar. And she would tell me some of the things that happened to her too, which always horrified me. It kind of brought my own, PTSD to the surface there. But she got so hard to handle that I just finally, when she turned 18, I'm like, you gotta go. You have to go. You're out drinking, drugs, you're staying out all night, you're skipping school. I don't know how to help you anymore. And I was just, she was just driving me insane. And I would get so angry at her. I would just get totally pissed off. Because I'm like, I'm here trying to help you. I'm supporting you. You're under my roof and you're doing this. You're treating me totally and completely disrespectful. Matter of fact, you're not being very respectful of your own body, of your own life. So yeah. She eventually left at 18, but it was rough. And then to go from that relationship, ending, and having to deal with my husband's death. Wow. There was just no respite for me. There was just no peace. Just none. None at all. But okay. We're going to stop it here. I will see you in the next video. It's like a soap opera, isn't it? Anyway, blessings upon you. Love, peace, and joy. And I love you. And I will see you in the next video.